Hey guys, it's your boy the Wanderer here back again, and today we are doing a how-to on drifting garage, and I'm gonna go and take you to get a car. I will be using one of my cars as a test, one that I have set up. Drifting is so easy, it's more just you push a button and kind of drifts. All you gotta do is just control the steering, and I see a lot of gamers kind of just on a bunch of mods and hope that it works or hope that it's pretty good, but personally, I think that's the wrong way to do it. The best way to do it would be to really have a bit of a deeper understanding on how the game views drifting, how it wants you to drift, as well as how you personally choose to act. And then we can go to the dealership and I can show you tons of cars that I'd use to drift. So this is my drift car. This is the Ford RS. It's a pretty cool car, especially to drift with. I'll show you my setup the minute we get back. But the basics on it is it's push a button and it goes. There's nothing much to it. It's not like, you gotta control the acceleration and deceleration. It's like drifting for dummies. That's the best way I can put it. Granted, it does require a bit of skill to obviously get it around a good corner or so, especially the very sharp ones, because I have to come in very tight in these angles. And Need for Speed has, as I've seen through the updates, Heat specifically, has put in a few new types of modes. If you go right on the D-pad, down to live tuning, you can see, oh, my downforce isn't set to, wait, okay, there we go. Let's go down, set your downforce to low, steering sensitivity to high. That's the easiest way to do it. Traction control you on off, otherwise it's going to do this, and you're not going to be able to drift very well because you get that maximum wheel spin, and that happens. It kind of just bogs and makes sure that it manages your acceleration properly so that you don't start spinning immediately. And that's what your traction control does essentially. But if we go down and we just go switch that off, now we have gas drifting and then we have brake drifting. And brake drift speed players may be ones that prefer to have the car more controlled with their brakes. So what it does is you tramp on the gas, increase your speed, brake, tramp on the gas again, and you fling it around a corner. Pretty standard, pretty basic. With brake drifting, it's a bit, I wouldn't say tedious, but it takes away from the immediate movement that you can do while just using gas. I find it way easier, but hey, maybe you find it differently. Maybe you have a different opinion or a different style of drifting, that you like to swing it all the way into corners, or maybe you like to keep it like right out on the edge. So what I'm about to show you are, like, most of the cars here have a little dot. Now for this one it's close to off-road, and I'm pretty sure you already understand the mechanisms of that dot. It moves to one direction, it does one thing, it moves to the other, it does a different thing. But what the main, I'd say, aspects of it does is, if you move it more towards drift on certain cars, let's say this one's pretty balanced, so if I move this car more towards drift, it already has a very good road element to it. Pushed it a lot down, maybe to the corner edge of drift, it's going to drift a lot better on road. But if I pushed it down to the corner edge of, let's say, racing, then you're going to find that what's going to happen is it's going to be super sticky, it's going to have a lot of traction, it will be relatively good at handling all turns. It's just you make it steer where you turn and the car continues going in the straight direction, so it's not going to send you around a corner, because what you really want is a bit of oversteer, and you want to control that oversteer very well. So for this is more towards drifting, so what I'd do is I'd put this more towards the immediate road where the steering wheel is, so I'd move that dot like straight down using my upgrades, because what's going to happen with this is you're going to get a ton of oversteer, it's going to swing around a corner, so if you put it totally towards drift, you're just going to get a complete sideways angle. It's not even going to be fun anymore. You're just going to be like sitting completely sideways, going straight forward to a wall once it does actually gather traction. And this is why I'm so meticulous, especially with how I upgrade my cars. So I'm just going to take you back to my garage now, and I'm going to show you my personal drift standards and personal drift settings. You would think that, there would be like a proper manual on this, but there really isn't. It's kind of just trial and error at the end of the day. But I guess maybe that's the best way to do it as well. I'm also still guilty of using brake drifting once in a while. It does help to control your speed around a corner. Like I'm coming in very fast here, and I can still swing it around. Oh, see that there was a bit of understeer. I wasn't going fast enough. Didn't push enough speed on it. Right. Okay, and we're in. Right. So, as you can possibly see, I'm just gathering my bearings here. It's not totally to the edge of drift. It's more, kind of center balanced. I like to push a car kind of full speed around a turn, or have it really shoot up too fast. Like, yeah, it's good to increase the acceleration because it gives you more wheel spin, allowing you to have a smoother drift around the corners. But the reason I don't upgrade all of the other parts so that I don't crack top speeds by accident is because if you full send it around a corner, you're going at too fast of a speed to really slow yourself down to a reasonable speed where you can drift it. Now on this one, I keep most of my drift cars very close to road. Off-road is pretty good, you can drift with it. It's just, I wouldn't say it's, if you really want like dummy drifting, I put on a few of these road parts. But what you need to remember is that each individual part plays a different role, so your suspension doesn't really affect your drifting as your differential might, because your differential is the main thing that's going to help your tires turn an extreme amount so that you can really get a good angle into the drift. So that's a racing differential onto a car. You can see it moves it back to the center near off-road and racing and all of the others. But what that's going to do is it's going to limit the amount of turn you can really get, or swing you can really get. So I'm actually going to shift this to road racing differential, and I'm now going to compare it to what we originally saw when I was sending it around a corner. And we're just going to see if I can do it as smoothly or if it's more difficult. And this is obviously my personal opinion. You might feel differently. You might feel that, maybe a racing differential works better for you. But the main thing I encourage is just to be tedious and keep tweaking it until you find that it works. Now, I can already tell it's much harder to steer. There's a lot more of a delay on it. So what's happening is I'm turning the stick and the tires are turning very, very slowly and not at a steep enough angle for me to really get around the corner. I can still drift with it because it's a very good drifting car. It's just, it's not ideal because the response time is too slow, so I'm gonna cut it very close on a lot of my drifts like that. Now, I have only built a few drift cars, maybe about 3, mainly because it's way more fun to build just a car that you can ride around with in the city without any sort of consequences, I'd say, like getting into a race by accident, wanting to just jump on. It's more for nighttime really, but it works just as well during the daytime. So this is my first drift build, right? And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go for the Mitsubishi, which is, I would say, a pretty classical drift car, as we Fast and Furious lovers might like to jump on the game and feel like we're back in the action. And on this one I have a very steep, and the reason for this is because my other builds, the one that I just showed you with Ford, it's reasonable. It's not exactly the best top of the line build. It's reasonable, and it gets you around a good few corners with a lot of control. This is a bit more erratic. This will around a corner like when you off a ball. Genuinely, it just tries to throw you into it. And again, it depends on preference. Maybe you like a smooth type of drifting. Maybe you like it totally steep. I don't know what you like. You might have a different opinion. You can drop it in the comments. Just tell me what you like. Drop a like while you're at it. It really helps me. And here we go, right? And this is also set to a lot higher, I believe, as far as revs go. Yeah, this is sitting on close to 9,000. So I am definitely cranking out higher revolutions on the tires, allowing me to do a lot of stuff like this. And the main thing you want to kind of avoid in a drift car is too much traction or too little traction, because that's what's going to really hit you in the rear end when your car does oversteer. So what's going to happen is I'm going to oversteer, I'm going to come around that corner, and I've hit a car. 1 minute, that wasn't perfect. Okay, let's see if we can gap it. Right, but as you can see, this one's a lot, on my side at least, I'm feeling it. You may be able to perceive it, that the car swings a lot more on these turns at a very steep angle, and it's just a matter of control really, but otherwise I feel it pretty smooth. And you can really genuinely do this with any car. I'd say some of the best cars in the game, if you really do want a preference, but I don't feel like there should be one, mainly because I feel like any car can be, boosted to a certain point where it becomes the perfect car. You just got to spend the right amount of time boosting it. Yeah, there's quick hacks and tips, but if you really want to, get to know your car, get to truly have a good style for it, I would say is just fine tune it, like deeply fine tune it. Like, I am running a supercharger because it accelerates faster, as I explained, increases the tire spin. I should possibly improve my brakes though. Road tires to decrease the amount of drift I have now and the amount of understeer I get, so it doesn't swing out as much. But I think I'm gonna keep it like that. But yeah, I guess this needs to be a kind of short how-to. I don't need to take forever really just telling you all of the same information. I do have, not this Lamborghini, it's the other one. Murcielago. Was it the Hurricane? Aventador. No, it's definitely this one. Right. So as you can see, this is fully set to road. I'm going to show you what it does in a corner. And I found this quite surprising, because even though it's fully set to road, what you may see with some of the cars is that when you start upgrading it, what I was explaining when we were in the dealership is that it'll be set on a certain point. It doesn't mean it's going to react in that exact way, which is kind of a flaw. I feel like they should have really fixed that, somewhere along the line. But what tends to happen is I can drift pretty decently in this car, and it doesn't stick as much. Like, when I'm going at, like, let's say 200, 300 kilometers, because I'm functioning on kilometers in the game, it still swings around the corner pretty decently. Like, there's no issues whatsoever. Like, here it's at a slow speed, it's not the best, but I guess as you increase your speed, you will lose quite a bit of traction when trying to turn, or it'll understeer. But in this case, for this Lamborghini, which I have at maxed parts already, if we can not, yeah, if we can not smash into cars, it would be quite nice. And alright, well, that slowed me down quite a bit. That was terrible. So we try on this one. Decent swing, decent hold. Obviously not drift car expert, but decent in a sense. In a lot of my other races, you'll find that it swings out quite a bit. But I think that would conclude most of this, because it's really just about how you fine-tune your car from this stage onwards. Most of the details I've given you are just, in a sense, personal preference. At the end of the day, it's my opinion. Maybe I told you something new. Maybe you already knew most of the stuff I told you. The main thing is just learn to just understand the car, in a sense. Like, I've given you the basics, tires control traction, your clutch and gearbox just control your acceleration, your differential will control how much your tires can shift while you're driving, and the speed and how responsive it is on road drifts. specifically because, and I keep most of my cars on it, again, personal preference, because it's the most responsive and it has and gives you the best angle and best amount of traction on your corners and turns, helping me accomplish what you will see when I do show you the fastest lap times on the leaderboards that I personally have. I've cracked records on, let me see, can I pull up the, I don't think I can, but I will definitely in one of my new upcoming videos. The fastest times that I've cracked on four different races, specifically with a monster of a car, which is actually the starter car, and it is the Nissan. It's a Nissan, and I've pushed it more towards racing because it helps, but originally it was just road, pushed it all the way to 400 and accomplished some pretty brilliant lap times. I don't know, that's not the aim, but it's pretty interesting to see how far you can push your car till it kinda, I would say, gives out and ends up doing something silly. But yeah, that's been me. Thank you. Enjoy evening, afternoon, night, morning, whatever it is, and like and subscribe.